There are far worse things, lazy man, than death.
What's up, my Wizards Dev? SBMTG down there. We got Dex on YouTube. Anyway, today we've got a thing I've been working on sort of non-stop for the last few days. Ever since a specific card or two was spoiled in the Shadows over Innistrad spoiler list there. This is Black-White Sacrifice, or Black-White Aristocrats, whatever you want to call it. A similar deck to this exists already in the current meta. It's just Mono Black Sacrifice. It does pretty well on mtgo. We're sort of borrowing from that philosophy here. We've got a lot of cool little synergies, and a lot of them are driven by a couple of the cards that we've just seen spoiled. So let's go ahead and get to it. Quick note, don't worry, Black-White Eldrazi's still coming. This is not the only Orzhov deck that I've got brewing up. Orzhov's my favorite guild. I've said that many times, so don't worry, I've still got more of Orzhov amazing stuff coming up for you. Both these decks, by the way, I think are pretty viable moving forward into the next format. We're talking about this deck right now, and I'll start with the creatures. 4 copies of Relentless Dead. This is the thing that I saw in the spoilers that made me really want to try this deck out. And that pre-order price is $16. I want to address that quickly. I think that'll probably go down a la Drana Liberator of Malakir. Although I think this card will see much more play than Drana, and this card will probably go down, you know. Drana right now is like $5 or $6. I think this will cap out higher than that, but if it sticks in a $10, something like that, is sort of what I envision for the card. But it's all speculation. I just don't think it'll sit there at 16 forever, you know, or necessarily go up. I'm just not seeing it. First thing I want to point out is that through a lot of playtesting, the first thing you notice, this card sort of costs 3 black mana, which means you have to have a pretty heavy commitment to black in your mana base. So we're only going to play a couple of white cards here. It's very important, unless unless you're playing against certain decks, you can play this on turn 2. It's entirely possible, but you really want to have an extra black mana left over to back this card up. You can return it to your hand in case it gets into trouble, in case it dies. So, but the card, aside from being a good 2, 3, 4 drop, is a good drop mid and even late game. You know, turn 5, turn 6. We can do some pretty impressive stuff with this. There's a lot of synergistic tricks available to us in this deck, and I'll get to them sort of as I go along here. There are some safety valves in the format for it, in the form of Silk Wrap and the upcoming Declaration in Stone. You know, Complete Disregard is also in the format, so there's some safety valves, but if you've got an mtgo Husk, a Kalatas, an aire, whatever out, you can just sack it in response to any of those spells, and it won't get exiled. So, you got that going for you. I think that's all I want to say about the card for now. I'm definitely going to say bring it up a few more times as we move through the video, because there's a few tricks available with it, but all I got for now. I'll come back to it in a second. 4 copies of Zulaport Cutthroat, and the current Mono Black Sacrifice deck only plays like 2 copies of this, but I just like my Zulaport Cutthroats, and I want to have multiple copies of them out as often and as easily as possible. So I'm playing all the Zulaport Cutthroats that the rules will allow me to play, and a lot of the times, especially with Relentless Dead, there, I just brought it up just then. A lot of times with Relentless Dead, you can just chain it over and over if you have like an mtgo Husk, you know, sack an mtgo Husk, pop it back to your hand, drain a life with Zulaport Cutthroat, play it again, sack it in mtgo Husk, pop it back to your hand, drain a life with Zulaport Cutthroat. I don't see why you wouldn't play all the Zulaport Cutthroats you could play. Just great 2-drop for us. We need all the 2-drops we can to sort of fill out the early game. And Zulaport Cutthroat just does all the work for us, especially once we get set up. I'm going to give you a choice for this 2-drop creature here, and then I'll tell you what I've ultimately gone with. There's 3 copies of either Carrier Thrall or Hangerback Walker in the deck. Pros and cons to each one of them. Hangerback Walker is a fantastic creature. You may be wondering why play, Carrier Thrall over Hangerback Walker when they're both essentially 2-drops that leave behind a 1/1 creature. There are a couple of reasons. The deck is very mana hungry, so sometimes that extra mana from the Scion token can mean a lot. It is something that you can just sacrifice without having a sacrifice outlet in play, which is good when you have like a Smothering Abomination out or Zulaport Cutthroats out and you need to get rid of a guy. Being able to just sacrifice a creature at will is very good, and that Scion token you can do that with. It's also a vampire, Carrier Thrall is, so that works very well with Kalatas. You can sack it to Kalatas, leave behind a token, and make your Kalatas bigger. Those are the reasons you play the Carrier Thrall there. Hangerback Walker is also very good, you know. It also is a 2-drop that leaves behind a 1/1 token, but this one flies. And you can make Hangerback Walker bigger as the game goes on. You can play it as a 4-drop if you want to. So that's also very versatile and good in any sort of Aristocrats type build. So you can play either one, but I've gone with Carrier Thrall, surprisingly. Not only because it's a little bit more budget, which is a consideration, but even if you had all the money in the world, Carrier Thrall is able to give you that extra mana. Again, it's a sacrifice thing. It's a thing you can sacrifice without having to have an outlet or any mana or anything. That's very, very good in and of itself. And aside from that, it's a vampire, which helps with Kalatas. So all the synergies with that. Although sometimes you have trouble blocking flyers if you don't play Hangerback Walker. So there's definitely pros and cons to each. I'll let you weigh them. Tell me what you'd play in the comments section. But I've gone with Carrier Thrall. 2 copies of Aile Eternal Pilgrim to round out the 2 drops here. I was playing 3 copies, but decided I was seeing it too much. And sure, you can just sack an Aile and get all the benefits of sacking a creature, whether it's drawing a card off of Smothering Abomination, or Zulapur Cutthroat, drain damage and stuff, and then play your other Aile. If it never clogs up your hand or anything. I just thought I could use that one slot a little bit better. A really, really tight deck list here. But 2 Aile is about all I really need to play. We've got a lot of 2 drops in the deck already, so we don't have all the room for a bunch of Ailes. But Aile's still very, very good, obviously. Great early game blocker. A sacrifice outlet, that's good. And combined with Zulapur Cutthroat, you gain a lot of life. So that'll help you stay in the game a little bit longer. So there's a lot of things to like about Aile. I'm just going to keep her at a 2 of. But obviously, this is, if you're playing black-white, this is one of the reasons you do that. There's 3 copies of Liliana Heretical Healer in the deck. There were 4 copies. I decided I was seeing it a little bit too much, just like Aile, which is surprising. I figured 4 copies would be more or less mandatory in the new format here, especially without Rally the Ancestors. I figured we'd need 4 copies, but really, I'm seeing it too often. Relentless Dead is really, really good just sort of on its own without Liliana, and it's even better with Liliana on the field because you can sacrifice your Relentless Dead to something, pop it back to your hand for a black mana, flip your Liliana, and then get something back from your graveyard. So just obviously the card is fantastic in conjunction with Relentless Dead, but it's good on its own too. We'll be sacrificing creatures like crazy, so flipping her very, very easy in the deck. 4 copies of the most obvious card in the deck, Nantuko Husk right here. Free sacrifice outlet, gets huge over the course of 1 turn, especially alongside Relentless Dead. Sacrifice Relentless Dead, +2/+2. Pop it back to my hand. Play it again. Sacrifice Relentless Dead. Pop it back to my hand. +2/+2. Like, the card gets really, really big. Just another thing Relentless Dead works awesome with. And works awesome with other stuff too. So this is a lot of synergy. We've got to have a free disc or sacrifice outlet, and this is probably the best sacrifice outlet available to us in the format. And it's common, so yeah, let's play this card. 3 copies of Fleshbag Marauder in the deck, and it was 2 copies. I just really want to see it all the time. Card has really good synergy with, again, this card, Relentless Dead. There's an interesting trick that is actually sort of amazing that you can do with these 2 cards, where you have a Relentless Dead out, sack it to Nantuko Husk. You'll pay 3 generic mana to put the Fleshbag Marauder that's in your graveyard into play. You'll pay an extra black to pop the Relentless Dead back to your hand too. You can do both. But you play the Relentless Dead again, you just do this over and over. Sack the Relentless Dead to Nantuko Husk, pay 3 generic mana, put Fleshbag Marauder into play, sack it to itself, it goes to the graveyard. Put the Relentless Dead back into play over and over and over. That's really good, and with just like 6 mana, you can do this once a turn, which can actually be a really, really good sort of soft lock on them if you're not playing like a tokens deck or something like that. So just, I've really, really liked to be able to do that trick, and it's something I need to point out. Also, it has good synergy with Liliana. It's a zombie that works well with Kalatas. So yeah, just Fleshbag Marauder is something I'm almost considering playing 4 copies of, especially in this format where we'll have the absence of something like Crackling Doom to keep Ojutai in check. This is a great card for keeping Ojutai in check. So Fleshbag Marauder, I've really, really liked playing this card over the last few days. 3 copies of Smothering Abomination. This was also a 2 of that I bumped up to a 3 of. In the absence of Grim Haruspex, this is just the best option we have for drawing cards. Not only because we get to sacrifice a card to it, creature to it, every upkeep, draw a card, but sacrificing things to Nantuko Husk, Aile, we got Bone Splinters in the deck. Sacrificing creatures to any of those also lets us draw cards. And again, with Relentless Dead, this is super awesome. Also, you can just fly through and win the game for you because it's a 4-power flyer. So just Smothering Abomination, I think, may really come into its own in this format without Grim Haruspex, and unlike Haruspex, is a viable sort of win condition for you that takes 20% of their life total every time you swing with it, and is evasive. So everything about Smothering Abomination has been great, and I would pick up some copies now because I don't think the card's going to explode or anything. But it's an easy speculation that doesn't cost much to speculate on, and the card may go up by a little bit. 2 copies of Kalatas in the deck. Something else that has great synergy with what? Relentless Dead. I have to talk about the card every time I talk about any other card because it has synergy with everything. But obviously, that's a zombie. So you can just sacrifice it to Kalatas, pop it back to your hand, make your Kalatas bigger, play it again, do that once a turn, making your Kalatas bigger every turn. Or however much you have the mana for. So that's good. Or, you know, if you have extra mana laying around, when you do sack it to a Kalatas, you can always return Fleshbag Marauder to play. They'll have to sacrifice a guy, and you'll get a zombie. So that's pretty awesome too. Kalatas also has good synergy with Liliana, obviously, because you use zombie token when Liliana flips. So you sacrifice that to Kalatas. Good with Carrier Thrall, because Carrier Thrall not only is a vampire, but gives you something. Leaves behind a creature when you do sack it to Kalatas. So, and Kalatas is just a great win condition. The lifelink is really, really important in helping you get back in the game after sort of a fast aggro start. We do have some problems against aggro because it takes us some time to get set up. So this can really help you gain some life back. It gets huge over the course of the game with Relentless Dead around. So just Kalatas is probably going to get even better. Be prepared for that. 2 copies of Archangel Avacyn in the deck. The other, you know, Shadows of Innistrad card in the deck. This card is amazing. This card is absolutely amazing. It's a huge headache to play around. You know, it's a terrible card to play against because you can do it during your combat step. You can do it during their combat step. You can do it during a draw step if you want to. You can do it during the end of their turn, you know. So just this card is really just super stressful to know that they have and have to play around it. This card is crazy on curve with some of the things we're doing. It's incredible synergy with Kalatas. I should bring that up. Because with Kalatas, you can play, you know, Kalatas turn 4, then this turn 5, sacrifice, say, you know, your 2-drop to an mtgo Husk. This is all just great curve, you know, by the way. You know, 2nd turn, Carrier Thrall, 3rd turn, mtgo Husk, 4th turn, Kalatas, 5th turn, Archangel, which is not Magic Christmas Land. This does happen. Not all the time, but it has happened on multiple occasions in the limited amount of games I've been able to play with it. Although, again, been playing the deck obsessively, but that curve does happen. 2nd turn, Carrier Thrall, 3rd turn, mtgo Husk, 4th turn, Kalatas, 5th turn, Avacyn, sometime during their turn. What'll happen is that, you know, you'll play your Avacyn, then you'll sacrifice your 2-drop to the mtgo Husk. Hey, one of your creatures died. Next upkeep, you'll flip the Avacyn, and sure, everything will die except Kalatas and Avacyn. But you'll have a Kalatas and an Avacyn, and they probably won't have much of anything on their side of the board. Not only that, you just bolted them for 3 damage, you know, 2. So, and you got a 6/5 flyer and at least a 3/4 lifelinker out. Just those cards are incredible together and curve out as well. So just amazing synergy there. But Avacyn is just really good in this deck, period, because we're doing an awful lot to force her flip. And when she dies, you know, I have to bring this card up with every card I talk about. When she dies, or when she flips, excuse me, it'll kill any Relentless Dead that you haven't played, but just pop them back into your hand. It's totally cool. So yeah, long story short, Avacyn, absolutely incredible, and may even deserve that pre-order price. I really hope it'll go down, and it probably will. I'd say it'll go down at least $5, but even then it'll still be a fairly expensive card. I just do have a lot of faith in this card moving forward, and I think it will be very important. All the experience I've had with it so far tells me that it is an incredibly powerful card. 5 spells in the deck, and they're all removal. We're playing 3 copies of Grasp of Darkness, because it's important to play Grasp of Darkness, good with Kalatas, all that, you know, kills pretty much anything. And we're playing 2 copies of Bone Splinters to go along with it. Bone Splinters also incredible in the deck. I was playing 4 copies of this, dropped it down pretty quickly. I don't want to see it all the time, but it is a sacrifice outlet that kills one of their guys just for the 1 mana. So, and it can lead to turn 5 and 6s where you do an awful lot of things, because it just only costs a 1, you know. So Bone Splinters has been fantastic, but I wouldn't go overboard with it or anything. But we do need some quality removal to help us set up, because again, it takes a little bit of time to do that, and we don't want to just get completely overrun. There's 25 lands in the deck, and the mono black sacrifice that's currently in the format plays 28 lands, because the deck is very, very hungry. Between Relentless Dead and everything you have to do with that, plus sacking things to Alias, sacking things to Kalatas, playing some of our big 4 and 5 drop creatures, the deck is incredibly hungry. So I could see playing an extra land or even 2 in the deck. I just don't know what space to free up in the main list here. Maybe cut 1 copy of Fleshbag, but I've just really liked seeing that card a lot. But, you know, so far 25 lands has worked a lot, very, very well for me. And I could consider also, before I move on, running a copy of Rogue's Passage in the deck, because an mtgo Husk gets pretty darn huge. And Kalatas gets huge too, and you gain the lifelink off of it when it goes, you know, whether it goes unblocked or not, you gain the lifelink, but still. Kalatas going unblocked can be really important. But anyway, maybe add a copy of Rogue's Passage. I could see doing that. But 25 lands has worked fairly well for me, but I could see adding at least 1. Here's our sideboard right here. First thing I want to say is that I could see if you could find the room somehow playing the 4 copies of Duress in the main deck. We really need to be able to get removal out of their hand, and I know the deck looks really, really resilient, and it is very, very resilient, but them sort of messing up our plans in the early game can really lead to game losses for us. If we lose an Antuco Husk, for instance, too early, then we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So sometimes we want to get removal out of their hand. We also want to get mass removal and control elements, period, out of their hand. Infinite Obliteration, we're trying to go very late. A lot of the times we need to get to turn 6, 7, even 8 to really start, getting critical mass with what the deck can do. So, a lot of times these green-red ramp decks will just go way over the top of us, play a Ulamog on turn 6 or 7, and just wreck face and carry that, until they win. And Infinite Obliteration can really, really help out with that. We've got to do something against those decks. So I'm considering playing 3 Infinite Obliteration. Those decks are very good against us. Here are your power rankings. A final score of 68, which is a darn good score and very competitive. I don't want to stake my entire claim on it, but I do think this or a deck very similar to it could be a very powerful player in the new standard. There's a lot of very, very powerful cards in this deck right here that I think will be important moving forward, or maybe even get a little bit better. I think Kalatos gets even better. Smothering Abomination gets a little bit better when we don't have Grim Horror specs around. And there's some other stuff in the deck that I feel like gets better in the new format, and cards that I think will be important, like Relentless Dead and Avacyn in the new format. So, the deck plays a lot of powerful cards. It's very, very resilient. Does take a long time to get set up, which is its #1 problem. But aside from that, the deck just does everything very well. There's a lot of very, very cool synergies, little things. But as you, proxy it up and play it, you'll see that there's a lot of options available to us as you play through the deck. So try it out. Let me know how you feel about it. And I have to point this out too. Even with the Lilianas and the $25 Avacyns and the Restless Deads or Relentless Deads, all of that stuff, this deck only cost about $230 to build, which sounds like a lot, but compare that with a playset of Jaces. Playset of Jaces is $280. So you're not even playing Jace in the deck. This deck costs less than a playset of Jaces. Pretty good. And you still get to play a ton of powerful cards in the deck. So I'm not going to call it budget or anything, but hope for the new standard moving forward. If you don't play Jace, there's obviously not fetch lands or anything. You could play at least pay a reasonable price for a deck, and I think that for a competitive, maybe tier 2 deck, this is a fine price, and the deck could be improved a lot if we get, say, very good 2-drop zombie or something like that. The deck only needs one piece to be very, very good, I think. That's all I got for now, but I got a couple of projects in the works as usual. Of course, I've got Black White Eldrazi coming up. I've already talked about that. But I've also got the aggro video coming, sort of what do we do in aggro moving forward. I'm working on Madness in the new format. We haven't seen too much with Madness, but I'm working on a couple of things. Primarily, I want to do a double deck tech that's Grixis competitive Madness, and then black-red budget Madness. And the budget deck's only going to cost like $20. So the Grixis one costs a little bit of money. But the budget deck's only going to cost like $20, and I really want to do that double deck tech. I've been working on that pretty hard. And if we see just one more really good card with Madness, that deck will really be filled out. So let me know what you want to see, and I'll push that out. If you enjoyed the content, do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments section down there how you felt about this, how you'd change it. If you just think it should stay mono black, maybe it should be black in a different color. There's a lot of things we could do. Black-green could work because you get Catacomb Sifter and a bunch of other stuff, Den Protector. So, let me know how you felt about it and how you would do it different. I'm always interested in that. So, yeah, I'm Deb from SBMTG. As always, thanks for watching, my wizards.